Welcome back to the BG MMA show, where today I will be going over my picks for UFC 319. Now, this card is a special one for me because I will actually be going to this one since it's in Chicago. That is where I live. So I'm especially excited. I was a little bit disappointed originally about this card, but now after kind of going through it, it's really deep. There's good fights from the jump. So I think it's going to be a great night, and I'm really looking forward to see what it's actually going to be like being in person for one of these. So without further ado, let's get into the fights. I know there's two Ultimate Fighter Championship fights on this card. I'm not going to be predicting those because I have not been tuned into the Ultimate Fighter, and I don't want to sound like a moron. So I'm going to be skipping those and jumping in actually to Karine Silva versus Dion Barbosa. Now, this fight was originally supposed to be a different one, but someone pulled out. I can't exactly remember who it is off the top of my head, but now it'll be Karine Silva versus Dion Barbosa. I'll be going with Karine Silva. She's had the full camp to prepare. Yeah, I think that's going to be really the basis of my pick there. She's had the full camp. She's ready. Dion Barbosa wasn't prepared to be on this card, so I'm going to go with Karine Silva via unanimous decision. Moving on, next fight on the card, we got Brian Battle versus Nursultan Ruzaboyev. So this is what I'm talking about. Having this be one of the earliest fights on the card speaks to the level of depth that it really has. And this fight's at middleweight. Both these guys, former welterweights. Brian Battle had a tough time on the scale his last time. Ruzaboyev's coming off of a finish earlier this year. Finished Eric McConico. But, I mean, he didn't look good against Cody Brundage, so that's not really one that's going to have any weight. But he had a competitive fight with Joaquin Buckley, finished Sadiq Dumas. And Brian Battle's coming off of that close, almost robbery versus Randy Brown. So this is really kind of a toss-up fight. I used to be a big Brian Battle fan, but after his last fight with Randy Brown, I kind of reevaluated that fandom. And I think I'm actually going to be going with Nursultan Ruzaboyev. I think he can be a little more versatile than Brian Battle. I think he can, kind of incorporate some ground and pound and just be a little too much for Brian Battle to handle on the feet. He didn't look great against Randy Brown. That could have been because of the weight problem that he was struggling with. But I think Nursultan Ruzaboyev has a little bit more danger that he can inflict. And I think I'm going to go with a Ruzaboyev unanimous decision. I think he wins rounds 1 and 3 pretty clearly. Next fight we have Drakkar Klose versus Edson Barboza. Kind of a battle of the unks here. A couple older fighters who don't have really much to prove in the lightweight division, aren't going to be fending for a title or anything like that. Edson Barboza has been off for a long time. I think so is Drakkar Klose. I can't remember the last time Drakkar Klose has fought. But I'm going to be going with Edson Barboza just because of the kind of the danger that he can inflict. I don't think Drakkar Klose is going to be finishing anybody, especially not at this stage of his career. While he can kind of incorporate some grappling threats to Barboza, I think Barboza is actually going to be just too much on the feet, and I actually think Barboza turns back the clock one more time and gets a KO here. I think he hurts him with a head kick and kind of finishes up with some ground and pound and gets a first round finish to kind of really ignite and get the card going and set out for a pretty exciting night of fights, hopefully. So I'm going to go with Edson Barboza, first round KO over Drakkar Klose, and Drakkar Klose retires, and maybe Edson Barboza retires too off of a banger win. So I'm going to go with Edson Barboza via KO. Next fight on the card, we have Alexander Hernandez versus Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper, heavy favorite here, coming off of back-to-back wins versus some unks. So he's got another one coming up here. Alexander Hernandez didn't look good in his fight against Kurt Holobaugh. A couple other fights where he's looked a little bit shaky in. He does pose some danger on the feet to Chase Hooper. But Chase Hooper's been on a 5-fight win streak. He's kind of on a tear since moving up to lightweight and kind of figuring some things out. He's really dangerous with his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's gotten a couple subs in his last couple fights. And I think that's going to be no different here. I think he's going to get Alexander Hernandez to the ground, get him in a body triangle, and start working submissions. He might not get in the first round, but I will be going with early submission. out of Chase Hooper, so either Chase Hooper first or second round submission. I don't think Alexander Hernandez's takedown defense is going to be able to continue to hold up here. And I think Chase Hooper is kind of on a run right now. He's putting all the things together, and he kind of has a little bit of a fan base after his super funny post-fight interview comment. So I think I'm going to go with Chase Hooper, second round sub. Next fight we have Jessica Andrade versus Lupi Godinez. I'm going to go with Jessica Andrade here. I'm just going to go with MMA math, even though you shouldn't do that. Lupi Godinez lost to Mackenzie Dern, and Jessica Andrade, I think, dropped Mackenzie Dern 4 times. So based on that math, with that kind of domination, give me Jessica Andrade by, I'm going to go with Jessica Andrade by decision, unanimous decision, and maybe split, just to spice things up. Jessica Andrade be a split decision. Next fight, we have Gerald Meerschaert versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. This fight's actually a sneaky, underrated, kind of a banger fight that you don't really know what's going to happen. GM3 obviously going to try to look to mix things up, get the grappling going, try to work a submission because he has, I think, the most submissions in middleweight history. Oleksiejczuk obviously has the power advantage, the stand-up advantage, and I think his counter grappling can actually be solid and hold up here. Obviously, he got subbed by Kevin Holland, but that was a rare case where he just got his arm kind of launched up, and he didn't even tap to that. I think that was just kind of a rare freak incident. Gerald Meerschaert, he kind of needs it to go into deep waters for him to get his submissions, and I think Michal Oleksiejczuk's been training with the Fighting Nerds, so he should have an extreme advantage on the feet and shouldn't really have any problems kind of picking apart Gerald Meerschaert at range. So I'm going to go with a dominant unanimous decision for Michal Oleksiejczuk on the feet, where he just dominates GM3 and kind of shows that there's levels to the stand-up game. And yeah, I'm going to go with a nice 29-28 decision, because now that I think about it, GM3, the reason why he gets that name is because of how good he is in round 3. So I think he will take round 3, but a nice 29-28 decision for Oleksiejczuk. Next fight, the prelim headliner, we got King Green versus Diego Ferreira. This fight, I don't know why the odds are actually this close. Bobby Green has been getting knocked out left and right, finished left and right by anybody with any sort of talent. His most recent win came against Jim Miller. And while Jim Miller does have some wins and has been pulling some things off, I mean, he wasn't meant to be out there with him. And Diego Ferreira is no Jim Miller. So I think Diego Ferreira should have a lot of success on the feet. I mean, he's coming off of a loss to Grant Dawson, but Grant Dawson's actually proven to be pretty good. So I guess the logic of MMA math wouldn't be good here, because King Green did happen to fluke a KO versus Grant Dawson. But I think Carlos Diego Ferreira should be able to, mix things up on the ground, get some ground and pound off on the ground, but also be equally dangerous on the feet and find that weak chin that King Green has nowadays. I think somebody said that a gust of wind can knock out King Green nowadays, so hopefully Diego Ferreira will be able to bring that gust of wind and find the knockout there. On to the main card. We have Tim Elliott finally returning after, I think, 2 years off versus Kai Asakura, making his second fight in the UFC after getting submitted by Pantoja in his debut fight, which is a tough debut fight to get thrown to. But I will obviously be going with Kai Asakura here, hopefully by vicious highlight reel KO. I mean, Tim Elliott's been out for too long, hasn't been seeing punches for a while. And Kai Asakura is knowing that he needs to win to kind of hold on to his ranking and prove that he's actually going to be a valid contender in the flyweight division and not just all hype. Kai Asakura should be faster than Tim Elliott. Kai Asakura should also be working on his grappling game after being shown levels by Pantoja. So I think there should be no problems here with Kai Asakura finding a knockout, realizing Tim Elliott doesn't have any sort of threats to his game that he should really be worried about. And I think this should be a nice, easy highlight reel KO win for Kai Asakura and kind of get him going in the flyweight division moving forward. Moving on to the next fight, where we have Jared Cannonier taking on Michael Venom Page. Now, this is one of the more difficult fights to pick, as it is with every single one of MVP's fights, just because of how difficult of a style he really has. Nobody can seem to really figure out how to strike with him, whether the right approach is to dart in and maybe risk getting KO'd, or stay on the outside and just get picked apart at range whenever MVP decides to dart in. So it's posed so many problems for anybody who doesn't just want to lay on him and kind of avoid the fight at all times like Ian Gary did. Kevin Holland, no answers on the feet, and Shara Magomedov, no answers on the feet. But I think Jared Cannonier, interestingly enough, will pose some difficulties that those guys didn't have. Nobody was as physically big and strong as Jared Cannonier is. So I think if Jared Cannonier chooses the right game plan here, chooses a wrestling kind of approach early to tire him out, and then maybe even rely on the striking later in rounds when MVP's much more tired and has been wearing Jared Cannonier the whole fight. I think Jared Cannonier, if he uses a smart game plan, I think he poses a lot of problems for MVP, which is why I will be picking Jared Cannonier. It may be naive to think that the perfect game plan will get incorporated, but I think that Jared Cannonier has the tools to get it done. If he uses some wrestling, can get off some good ground and pound from top positions, and then just be intelligent striking, not let MVP rock him in any big moments. I think Jared can do enough in each round to kind of outpoint him and win a close decision fight. It might be a little bit more of a boring fight if Jared Cannonier is going to come through with this one, but we can't act like MVP's been having like really exciting fights in the UFC yet. He has exciting KO highlights in Bellator, but he hasn't done much in the UFC if we're really getting down to it. So I think I'm going to go with Jared Cannonier, mix in the wrestling, mix in the strength, and getting it done by a maybe unanimous, maybe split decision. Hoping unanimous is somebody who may be having some funds on Jared Cannonier this weekend. But yeah, I'm going to go with Jared Cannonier via decision. Next fight on the card, we have Carlos Prates versus Jeff Neal. Now, this is one of the fights on the card where you circle and you go, this is the guaranteed banger of the card. And I don't disagree. I think for sure we're going to get fireworks this card. Now, where do the fireworks come from is a decision that I've been mauling with back and forth. At some point, I thought, oh, yeah, it's got to be Carlos Prates. Easy win for a fighting nerd, bounce back win. But then I'm thinking Jeff Neal can get inside, get scrappy. The Trevin Giles fight is ringing a bell where it was a very scrappy round one, and then Prates was able to put him away. But Trevin Giles isn't Jeff Neal, so I think Jeff Neal can have more success in that game. But Jeff Neal is also not going to turn down the fight, which means that he is very susceptible to getting touched by that Carlos Prates power. Now, what do I think is going to happen? I think I'm going to have to go with Carlos Prates. I think he's going to find the chin. I think he's going to use his lateral movement around the ring to just kind of tire Jeff Neal out, frustrate him, and eventually Jeff Neal will loop in to throw one of those big punches, and I think Carlos Prates just catches him quicker with his speed, and I think he knocks him out. Maybe a late knockout, but I think that Carlos Prates is going to be putting in the necessary work. He got beat by Ian Gary, but he thinks that he should have won that fight. So it might be the best thing for him to lose a fight where you looked good in, where you had chances to win in. So you can go back to the drawing board but not be completely disappointed. He's not coming off of a KO. He didn't take a ton of damage in that fight. Jeff Neal's coming off that win against RDA where RDA got injured. Didn't show a lot there. It was an old RDA anyway. So I think I'm going to be going with Carlos Prates to find the chin, find the KO, and get it done by knockout. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening where we have Lerone Murphy coming in as the underdog versus Aaron Pico making his UFC debut. This is one of the more confusing fight lines that I've really ever seen as a UFC fan. They got Aaron Pico coming in as the favorite. I know I've seen the vicious highlight reel KOs that Aaron Pico's put together, but those are against Bellator guys, and those are against Bellator guys that we haven't heard of. And he's also gotten KO'd by those guys too. So, I mean, if we're going to be putting stock into those wins, we have to be putting heavy stock into those losses as well. Lerone Murphy's fought high-level guys in the UFC, Dan Ige, Josh Emmett, Sadiq Youssef, Edson Barbosa is who I meant, I think. I don't think he's fought Sadiq Youssef, but they both fought Edson Barbosa in a short period of time. But either way, he's fought high-level guys in the UFC, not in Bellator. They both are coming in on short notice, so that doesn't really play a role for either guy. But I think Lerone Murphy's going to be the smarter fighter here. He's going to know how to win. He's not going to be afraid of the big moment of the UFC. Co-main event, he's been a main event of cards before, so he knows how to handle that kind of spotlight. And I think Lerone Murphy's just going to do what he always does: outpoint the other guy, win by decision, not put himself into much danger. I think he's going to obviously know that the way that Aaron Pico is going to be able to win is by KO or doing something flashy like that. So I think Lerone Murphy's going to stay safe and do what he normally does, just outstrike the other guy. It's really mind-boggling how Aaron Pico is actually the favorite. When I first saw that, I thought it was a joke. But they're really putting a lot of stock into this, and I know it's not going to be necessarily the same thing as Patchy Mix versus Bautista or Patricio Pitbull versus Yair, but I mean, those have to start playing a role in how we're picking fights going forward. So I'm going to be going with the UFC here, going with Lerone Murphy, even though I'm not the biggest Lerone Murphy fan. I think he gets it done. He threw out the first pitch at the Sox game, so he's got to be firing on all cylinders. He just has to be. And now, the co-main event, and by co-main I mean main event. We have Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. Probably the most anticipated fight remaining this year, maybe the most anticipated fight of the whole year. We finally get to see Khamzat Chimaev in a title fight. Knock on wood, he's made it this far. He should make it to the walk against a very formidable challenger and somebody who we think is going to give him the most problems up to date in Dricus du Plessis. It'll be interesting to see how early does Khamzat shoot and what happens when Khamzat does shoot. Does Dricus get back up? Does he struggle? Does he get subbed right away? What kind of fight is it? It's just going to be super exciting to see. And then Dricus du Plessis, what does he do? Does he put the pace on him early while they're standing up? Does he kind of survive and make DDP or make Khamzat tire out? Does he wrestle? I mean, there's possibilities are endless with this fight, but I'm going with Dricus du Plessis. I think the ability to win in the later rounds is going to play a massive role here. The ability to be very well versed in the stand-up and on the ground, and just not being totally reliant on an early finish. I mean, obviously Khamzat's undefeated, but I think it is safe to say that he is reliant in this fight specifically on a first round or second round early finish. I think he knows that he can't be going to a decision with Dricus, and he can't be going into those late rounds where he's never been before. He's never been to a fourth and fifth round like that in the UFC. And I think we've seen from Dricus in these past couple fights that he gets better as the fights go on. He got better as the Adesanya fight went on. He got better as the Strickland fight went on. He's shown that he can go into those deep rounds and still be extremely dangerous and extremely sharp. So I'm taking Dricus to weather that early damage in the first round. I think in the second round, Khamzat can still be a very explosive fighter, a very dangerous fighter. But I think that danger is going to keep wearing and wearing down. And by the third round, I don't think Khamzat's going to want to be out there. He's going to look dead. He's going to look tired. He's going to look ready to be finished. And I think that's when Dricus will pounce and Dricus will get the finish, probably by ground and pound TKO after stunning Usman or after stunning Chimaev, dropping him, maybe takedown, and then getting a finish on the ground in probably the third round, which is where I'll be going with Dricus du Plessis, third round finish over Khamzat Chimaev to wrap up the card, and hopefully it'll be a special sight to see as I will be there live in person. So let's take a look.